Hey everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Lovely Freaks. So we are still, I'm still here with my sister Hannah, and it's me and Amanda, and it's me, and we're just picking right up where we left off on the first episode. We're literally doing this all in the same night, but we wanted to kind of split this up for you guys so that way if you want to take a break, because I don't believe I don't want to make a podcast last longer than an hour if I have to. So if you guys took a break and took a little breather from the last heaviness, kind of heavy. I mean, the murders were definitely heavy, but his the BTK poems and things like that, like that was just too much. If you needed a good laugh, then I'm sure you did that. So we're just going to pick right up where we left off. And the rest of this, we're going to do 3 more murders. And then we're going to dive into 3 more murders, his last 3. And kind of talk about his capture and everything like that. So let's get started. We left off last with Anna Williams and how she got away. And that wonderful poem of his that I couldn't even make it through. And also, you guys, I realized that I was like sniffling a lot, and I'm so sorry for that. We are in my bedroom because this is like the only place in the house that has really good soundproofing, like carpet and then bed and everything, and the fan is going, and it's kind of hot up in here because tomorrow is actually Halloween.
Yay!
Our favorite holiday, and it's actually really cold outside, which we live in Mississippi. Not going to tell you guys where, obviously, because ain't nobody got time for that. But we live in Mississippi, and, like last week, I think it was, in the 80s?
80s.
Yeah, and then now, actually not even last week, like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, literally 2 days
2
ago.
days ago, and then we had, like, a hurricane come through, and then
all of a sudden it's like 50 degrees.
Yeah, it's like 50 and 30 at night, so I'm going to try not to sniffle through this thing, and if my nose runs, my sister's just going to sit here and watch it run.
Yummy.
Yeah. Okay, so we left off with Anna Williams. Now we're going to talk about the Federal Bureau of Investigations. The FBI actually started they started their own like police task force for this guy in 1984. They were fed up. The FBI like gave the Wichita police a bunch of money to start their own task force. There were 8 police officers working this case from 1984 to 1986, and they actually called themselves the Ghostbusters, which I thought was so cool.
Cool. I love that.
I was like, that's pretty cool. They used computers to do different analysis. They used FBI profilers. They even used DNA, which wasn't done at all at this length in the U.S. till that time. So nobody had been using DNA to that extent until they started doing it. So I thought that was pretty neat. They realized that BTK, when he sent those letters, because if you think back, I never mentioned this, but you probably were thinking to yourself, how come they didn't catch this guy with the letters?
Yeah.
Because usually you can
look at the handwriting and stuff.
Yeah, well, handwriting. Well, he typed his letters.
Oh, okay.
So he also would make copies of his letters, so they couldn't trace it back to a specific typewriter.
Oh, okay.
So he made copies of his letters, and they did use they traced the ink, so they were able to trace the ink back, or like where it had been bought, where it had been purchased, and then where it had been used. But the 2 places that they traced him back to was the Wichita Library, which is a public library, and it's a public copier, so there's no way that, they would have been able to figure out who it was, because anybody can be there. And then they also traced it back to a college copier, and if you remember me telling you, they thought at one point that maybe this guy was in college, and he was, like, the murderer, but they weren't sure whether or not. They suspected that it was a college guy for a long time, and that was why, because even though the college printer that they found was also used for, like, the public could use it, but they still thought, okay, well, what's the odds of, like, somebody in the public going all the way to the college to, use the printer. So they didn't get anywhere. They spent 2 years on this investigation and they didn't make it anywhere. And they didn't make it anywhere, which is sad. But in 1985, he committed his 8th murder. And this was actually during the time that they were still investigating, because they investigated from 84 to 86. So in 1985, he committed his murder number 8, which was Maureen Hedge. It was April 28th, and she was 53. During one of his Boy Scout trips, this is the one I was telling you about, where they were camping. He actually, they all went to bed, but he told his son and he told a couple of other people, he said that he had a headache, so he had to like go home real quick, I guess, and like, I don't know. So he claimed that he had a headache. He said he chose her because she lived right down the street from him, which was stupid, but it didn't, he didn't get caught because of this, but I mean, that was really brave. Yeah, I would not have, thought that he would have done that, but he chose her because she lived right down the street. He pretended to be drunk one night, and he took a taxi to Park City. So apparently he went to a bowling alley. He went to a bowling alley. He sat around there for a while. I don't know if he was trying to create like an alibi or something like that. But he was supposed to be at the Boy Scout trip, so that didn't make any sense to me. Anyways, but he said he went to the bowling alley, and then he got a taxi. He said he swished some beer in his mouth so that way the taxi driver would think he was drunk. Yeah. He got a taxi, and then he drove him out to Park City, which was a walking distance from her house and from their house, or the neighborhood. He told the driver that he was going to be sick, and so the driver let him out, and when the driver let him out, he just kind of walked off, and I guess the driver thought, okay, he's going to be sick, and I guess he'll find his way home. So he left, the taxi driver did, and then he walked back to her house. He said he had his kill kit, as he likes to call it, and he had it in his bowling alley bag. I guess it was a bowling alley type bag. He snuck into the house, hid in the bedroom. She was supposed to be there, but apparently she wasn't. So, like he did with Catherine Bright, he just snuck into the house and then he just waited. He said that she had a male visitor she came home with, and then the visitor didn't leave for several hours. So he hid in the closet or somewhere. It's unclear as to where he was hiding, but he hid somewhere and waited for her male visitor to leave. And after he left, he snuck into the bedroom and started strangling her while she was waking up. He said he flipped on the light in the bathroom so she wouldn't wake up, because if he would have flipped on the light in the bedroom, she would have woke up and got startled. So he kind of strangled her while she was in her sleep, but she also woke up and, I can't even imagine. That would be the worst thing ever.
Be the worst thing.
And after she died, he stripped her, tied her up, and then went through her purse and her personal belongings. He then took her body. Yeah, this is the one. I was reading my notes. Sorry, guys. He took Polaroids of her. No. He didn't take Polaroids over there. He took her body to his church in her car. His church, the Christ Lutheran Church. Yeah. And I told you it would come into play in the murders. In the first episode, I said that. So, yeah, he took her body to his church, and he took her and posed her on, I guess outside of the, what's it called in a church? Sanctuary? Yeah. Mm-hmm. He said, this is another reason why he claimed he was such a good guy, is because he said he didn't take her body into the sanctuary and take pictures of it there, because that would have been bad. That would have been wrong. Would have been wrong, man. Yeah. But I'm just going to do it outside of the sanctuary. Like in the foyer. Wow. Because, that's so much better. Yeah. So anywho, he did that. He took her body there, took Polaroids of her. Then he took her and dumped her in a ditch somewhere, and then took her car. I think he took her car back to her house, or maybe he took it somewhere else. I'm not sure. So yeah, that one was pretty awful, especially the fact that he just like threw her in a ditch. And that was another weird thing because he had never done that with another victim. So the police were confused again because they were like, okay, this woman was found in a ditch. So that was in 1985. And that was during the time that the federal investigation was, looking into him. So his next murder, his 9th murder, gotta flip my notes around, you guys. Which really, these are just like me looking down, trying to remember like quick because I've know so much about this case. It's ridiculous. Anyways, Vicky Gregory. Sorry, Vicky. It's late.
Yeah.
It's like midnight. September 16th, 1986. This is his 9th victim. She was 28 and her name was Vicky Wegerly. So this one's pretty crazy. He told her, he showed up with like a repairman, a phone line repairman suit, like work thing and a hat. And he told her that he was there to repair the phone lines. She said that her husband was at work and she had 2 older children that were at school, but she did have a 2-year-old there. And the 2-year-old, I believe, was in the crib at the time, or maybe was on the floor or something like that. She let him in thinking that he was just a guy that was going to fix the phone lines or look at the wires or whatever. And then he drew his gun on her and he told her that she needed to go to the bedroom. He tied her up with things he found in her room, but she broke free and started fighting him, which of course I'm sure he thought to himself, like he did in the other one, if I'd had my ropes, she wouldn't have got free. Because he's such a badass at rope tying. That's such a Boy Scout thing to say, too. Like, if I'd have tied my knots.
No one can be released by my knots.
Yeah. No shade to Boy Scouts. I'm just saying that sounds like something they would say. Because he was a Boy Scout. Or an Eagle Scout. Because I don't know anything about Boy Scouts. But so anywho, he finally got control of her. And he strangled her with a sock, is what he said. He thought she was dead, but she just passed out. While passed out, he took provocative pictures of her. The dogs started barking, and the dogs were being really super loud during this whole entire thing. I guess they had like a couple dogs in the backyard, and she had mentioned earlier that her husband was going to come home. So he was like, yeah, I'm out. So he just kind of cleaned up real quick because he figured a neighbor was going to call or something, and then he booked it out of there. So later her husband found her and they rushed her to the hospital. Of course, she died later at the hospital, but the husband was actually thought to have been the suspect for a while. And I mean, obviously, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the 2-year-old, they tried to see if they could get him to confess. Sorry, you guys. Try to get him to see if they could get like a description out of the 2-year-old, which I mean, 2 is really, really, yeah. That's not going to happen. But the 2-year-old did say, I believe that the husband's sister, so it would be the 2-year-old's aunt, had him because the husband actually, I think, went to jail, if I remember correctly. So he was in jail and the aunt was taking care of the 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old, she asked the 2-year-old who hurt mommy, and she said mommy hurt man. The 2-year-old did. Mm. I don't remember if the 2-year-old was a boy or a girl, but he or she said mommy hurt man. And then the aunt asked, was it daddy? And then the 2-year-old said no.
So was the 2-year-old there the entire time?
The 2-year-old was there the whole time. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Now I'm sure that they don't remember. I'm sure the 2-year-old doesn't remember anything nowadays. But I mean, that had to be hard then. Yeah. And he knew that mommy was hurt by some man. So, that's just.
So did he give any kind of description of what he looked like?
No, obviously not.
Okay.
He wasn't able to give a description.
But they could just be sure that it wasn't the father. So he wasn't a suspect anymore.
Yeah. And then her husband was eventually cleared, but still has... At the time, her husband was eventually cleared, and then they didn't know who it was that, murdered his wife, which... I mean, I don't know why they just didn't automatically assume it was the BT Strangler.
Well, I guess I would understand because he's doing it very randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's doing, like, sometimes he'll kill, sometimes he won't.
Yeah,
sometimes
like, that's...
he'll throw the body
I guess
away.
that's the thing, like,
he's very sporadic.
Yeah, and so... in that murder, she didn't die.
Bonding? Was she bondage?
She was strangled with a sock.
Yeah, see?
But...
and everything was kind of connected by bondage, and this one really, he just strangled her.
Mm-hmm.
So
and not to death.
Yeah, I can understand.
She was still alive till she got to the hospital.
Yeah, I can understand why they thought that.
Yeah, and I guess they probably would have thought, well, he would have killed the kid because he's killed kids in the past. Yeah. So
he's very random, and I think the only reason he's random is because he gets scared, or he thinks he's gonna get caught.
Yeah.
He thinks he's this badass, but he really isn't.
So they didn't know who did that murder, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip ahead. There's another murder that we're going to cover, but I'm going to skip ahead to 2004 because what I'm about to talk about is connected to Vicki Weckerly's murder. Mm-hmm. So a letter was sent to the Wichita newspaper. It had 3 photos of a woman laying down, tied up, and had a driver's license. The driver's license was Vicki Weckerly's. So he had taken it out of her purse. And it was a letter from BTK. The letter addressed return was a made-up spelling name. So the return was like... I don't remember what the return was, but it spelled out the first letters of those words were BTK. So that's how they knew it was BTK. And obviously, there was a letter in there, plus he had the driver's license. So that was how they and that was another reason why obviously her husband got cleared before 2004, thank God, because I couldn't imagine him being in prison that long, and then all of a sudden them being like, oops, sorry.
JK, guys.
Yeah, but that was how they knew that was definitely him that did it, but they didn't know that until 2004, and he got captured in 2005, so, I mean, that kind of sucks. So, the 10th murder, and the final one, was Doris Davis. She was 62. It was January 19th. 1991. So this was a pretty long time.
Yeah, these are very
this was 5 years. Yeah, this was 5 years later. And there's no wonder what he was doing during those.
No, I wonder what triggers him to think, okay, it's time for my project,
I don't know. And I don't really know if it's in all my research I couldn't really find a specific, because I wanted to know what the hell he was doing during the 3 years stop and period or the 5 year.
Why did he think, okay, look, it's time, I should start killing people?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on.
Did that. He always just was saying I just do it because I had a troubled childhood, and I'm a good person, but he's not really
yeah, and his thing was he always liked to try to make them think that they were going to survive. So, yeah, he thought to himself he was kind of a good person, I guess. I don't know. Question mark? Whatever. So, let me get back to where I was. Doris Davis was 62, and it was January 19th. He would always walk to the murders, to the people's houses. But, so this time he walked there. And I think it was in the middle of the night, because she was asleep, and he threw a brick into her plate glass window, and she came out of the bedroom freaking out because she thought that somebody had she actually thought that somebody had like drove into the plate glass window or hit the side of her house or whatever, because it was that loud. And he lied again, and he said that he was wanted and on the run and needed a place to stay, so he went back to his old spiel or whatever. He tried to calm her down, and after he calmed her down, he put handcuffs on her. He pretended like he was going to leave, like he was like getting some things and kind of like robbing her, and then he like walked out. Then he walked back in, and she probably thought, okay, he's just gonna grab these things and go. But he then came back into the room. He strangled her with pantyhose and put her in her own car, and then I don't know if he put her in her own car and then drove away, or like left. And I think he put her in her car and then drove and like parked her car somewhere else. So yeah, that was his last murder. And then that was pretty, I don't want to say easy, but I mean, it was pretty.
In a different way, too.
Yeah, different because, you know.
He didn't just leave the body.
He didn't just leave.
Actually put it in a car and took it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, it's very sporadic. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think that's what was throwing the police off. And that one was in 1991, so this is forever. So they probably thought that the dude was dead, or...
Yeah. Or he just stopped killing.
Just stopped killing. Well, actually, I do think that they said that the police, one of the police chiefs in an interview that I was watching, they said that they thought that he was in jail. Like, they thought he had gotten caught for something else. Mm-hmm. And he was just in jail, so they weren't really worried about it. So then, in 2004, a DNA had been built up from the DNA profile from his semen that was left at the scene of the crimes. And they couldn't match it to any men. Like, they swabbed 3,000 men in Wichita. 3,000 men. That's a lot of men in Wichita. And they couldn't find anyone that it was connected to. He continued to communicate with police the whole time. And then in February of 2005, the police finally announced that they had caught Dennis Rader.
And how did they catch him?
Yeah, we're going to go through that because that is funny. Okay. It's funny because, God.
It's stupid.
So,
like,
yeah.
Stupid.
In January 2005, he sent a postcard to the news station saying that he left 2 packages for the police. One was on the side of the road, and the other was behind a Home Depot, both in cereal boxes. The first one, which was on the side of the road, was a detail of his first murders inside. And then the second one, which was at Home Depot, was several documents. The first document said, and I quote, "Can I communicate with a floppy?" No, not with a floppy, just with floppy. "Can I communicate with floppy and not be traced to a computer? Be honest, under miscellaneous section 494, Rex, it will be okay. Run it for a few days in the paper in case I'm not out of town, etc. I will try a floppy for a test run sometime in the near future. February or March." End quote. A floppy, because you're young.
I'm young. Yeah, I was like, who's Floppy? I
Who's
was thinking,
Floppy?
There's a person named Floppy? Like, who's this Floppy?
Oh, God. Y'all, I'm 30 and she's 20. No. Back up. I'm 31. She's 20. Fixing to be 21. So, yeah, floppy disks were way out in her time.
Floppy disk. Okay.
You kind of remember what they are. But, yeah, so he was literally asking the police if he could be traced with a floppy disk, which, fucking duh. Yeah, you can.
Why would he, like, they're going to be like, no,
and he wanted them to write in the newspaper. He wanted him to, in order for him to know the answer, He wanted them to write in the newspaper what I just said, Rex, it will be okay. He wanted them to run that in the newspaper if it was okay.
Of course they're gonna.
And of course, he says in this fucking
like
thing,
your best
he says,
friend, and they're just gonna be like,
yeah, he says, be honest.
Be honest
Be
now,
honest.
BFF. You wouldn't do that to me, would you?
You wouldn't do that to me. Come on now. Yeah. So they did. They ran it in the newspaper.
Wow, he's that stupid.
Knowing that they were gonna use it. I mean, duh.
Of course.
And so yeah, they ran it in the
newspaper.
Ran it in the newspaper. It said, Rex, it will be okay. 2 weeks later, after the ad was ran, he actually sent the floppy disk in. Wow. It said one sentence. This is a test. Because remember, he said he was going to send it in a test run?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what BTK failed to realize was that they traced it back, that it had been used at the Park City Recreation, which is where he worked. He was apparently like a dog catcher. And then it had also been traced back to the Christ Lutheran Church, where he was on the president the president couch, where he was on the president council, like I said, for the church. And that the document he put in the document, it has his name attached to it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like, not actually in the document that he could see, but when they ran it to try to figure out where it came from, his name was on it, and it said Dennis. So, boom, all they had to do was do a quick Google search, and they found Dennis Rader. They also got DNA from Dennis Rader's daughter, and from a pap smear, so they wanted to make sure they had the DNA. So they took the DNA from her pap smear and ran it, and it was a match. And they went and got this asshole, and he admitted all that he had done, and he said that it was all part of his sexual fantasy. Of course, he at first said that he was innocent and tried, but then, like, he only said it for like a couple hours. He was like, yeah, I'm innocent, I don't know why I'm here, but then, like I said before, he confessed, and it was a 30-hour confession, which, dude, the police said that once he started talking, like, they couldn't get him to shut up. And obviously, I mean, that sounds about right. We're talking about this narcissistic,
but, like,
loves to hear himself talk.
Seriously, like, he sat there and, like, detailed everything
for 30 hours. Yeah.
I would just tell him, okay, dude, that's enough.
We're enough. Fine. We're good.
You're gonna die, so it doesn't really matter.
So he said that he was so hurt that they lied to him about the floppy disk.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He thought they were BFFs.
No.
Because he had been communicating with them for 30 years. So obviously he had this twisted thing where he thought that he was like, he thought they were like best friends. We're best buds.
I know I murder people, but like, we're BFFs.
Yeah. So just
I felt so hurt.
Let me get away with this, and I want to keep communicating with you guys and be honest.
I thought maybe he would, like, in trial, be like, well, they weren't supposed to do that. They weren't supposed to catch me. They said they wouldn't. He
said, he told the detective, how come you lied to me? And to the detective, to that he replied, because I was trying to catch you. Duh.
Exactly.
He didn't say duh, but he did say because I was trying to catch you. And in court, he had all the details of his crimes. He was convicted of all 10 murders and served 10 life sentences. And that, my friends, is the story of BTK. We're done. Woo!
Yay!
So yeah, thoughts.
Oh my god, he sounds awful. He just sounds like not even like I'm gonna say good serial killer. Like, I know that's like weird, but like he did it clean and cut, or like a guy.
Yeah,
I can't. Good reason. I mean,
can't
not
understand.
Like a good reason, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't understand why they couldn't find him. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they didn't do a good job. I mean, obviously, they started a whole task force dedicated to him. But it just baffles me that they couldn't pinpoint him down. I guess maybe because he was such a generic dude. And I think, like, his I didn't really read a lot about his life. I just kind of wanted to explain like him and his and the murders. So I didn't read a lot about his family life. I read a lot about his life, but I don't know if I know that his wife said that she had absolutely no idea. Like she had no idea that he was doing this. And she filed for divorce like right after he was convicted, basically.
Good for her.
And she didn't have anything to do with him. I think his daughter wrote a book, which I kind of want to read, and I probably will.
Yeah, like, did his kids know?
Yeah, like, well, no, they didn't know at the time, but they knew later.
Like,
and
did they have hints?
No,
They figured?
they had nothing. No, nobody knew anything.
That'd be
I
weird.
think he
That'd
like
be like our dad being like, oh,
yeah,
by
straight
the
up,
way,
yeah,
he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what?
yeah, because our dad is like the most normal dude, like awesome dad, and then you find out, that's what that because she said. I believe his daughter said that, he was he was a great dad. Like, he would, open presents, Christmas morning, birthdays, he was there. He would help fix cars and do stuff. His dad, when he was younger, taught him how to be a man and how to take care of the family. So, there was another thing, though, when he was smaller. Now, this, I will say, and I forgot to mention this, but I will say that this, out of all the self-analyzation things that he likes to say, that this is what attributed to his serial killings, or his dark side, as he likes to call it. Yeah, he calls it his dark side. I believe I said that, though. He, I think there was a neighbor that they were staying with, or it may have been an aunt that he had, or something. I can't really remember, but there was this woman that came into his life, whether who it was or not, and he said that she would tell him, and he was like 8 at the time, and she would tell him that she hated cats, like hated them so much that she would like bag them up when she was a little girl and like toss them in a river or kill them or whatever. Yeah, and so he started doing the same thing. Like, he started tying up cats and strangling them to death. Yeah, so that there probably like definitely
that might have started something.
Will fuck up something in the brain, but and he also got dropped on his head as a baby, which
Obviously.
There are so many serial killers that get dropped on their head or have like a dramatic brain injury, which I know that can mess up the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is like really important because it helps you deal with like decision making and things like that. But I mean, you gashed your head open when you were a baby, or not a baby, you were like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not a serial killer that I know of. No. So yeah, I just don't get that. So, but I mean, we talk a lot about nature versus nurture, so I'm sure there are some things that happen, but he didn't get abused or nothing like that. I think that there was a magazine that he saw at one point that had like maybe some bondage in it, some like light bondage, because like Betty Page and stuff like that. That's what she was into back in the day. So, and he said that that aroused him, obviously. But I wonder if he did anything with his girlfriends in high school, because he had girlfriends in high school. He had a lot of different girlfriends, and that's why he kind of stopped, like his whole like.
In high school, he stopped
going to the horse trough and jerking it.
Yeah.
So
maybe he did bondage with them.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if he found somebody,
to
that
do bondage with
that
in
would,
a healthy way.
In a healthy way that would do that. And maybe that's why when he got married to his wife, he tried and he thought she might be into that, but she was not into that. But I wonder if she also, like, his wife, I hope she doesn't like think back and think, if I would have just like done that, maybe everything would have been all right,
No.
But surely not. I mean, I'm sure she probably struggled with that, but that is not her fault at all. So yeah, that's BTK. And I don't know who we're going to do next. What do you want to do next? What would you like to do? I don't know. Guys, if you follow us on social media also, we're going to have a social media page. And if you listen to our trailer, then you'll know that. And you can find all of our stuff. We're going to link it down below in the social media, and we might link it down below here too. But you can go on there, and we're going to have a spot where you guys can like write in your own stories. They can either be true or not. They could be something that happened to you. It can be anything from ghost story to maybe you escaped a serial killer in some way. But write us and let us know, and write the whole detailed story out, and we'll actually talk about them on our podcast. I thought that would be really cool.
I'd like to do like aliens and supernatural.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. We're going to do some, we could do some alien stuff next.
We could talk about the alien abduction that we well, not really, but you know what I mean. That
the alien abduction. No,
story.
Guys, we really did have a crazy ass UFO experience. I'm not gonna say aliens, but
one podcast we should put that in.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. It was crazy, and we'll talk about that. We might do aliens next, and then we can talk about our little encounter in the first one. But like I mean, we didn't see aliens, but we did see a UFO. I mean, it was an unidentified flying object, okay? Sorry, but it was. So yeah, I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and stay tuned for episode 3. And this one was kind of short, but I didn't want you guys to have to sit around we're going on almost 40 minutes, so it would have been an hour 40. So most of our podcasts we're going to try to keep within an hour. If we can, we may have to go over sometimes because we want to fit it all in one instead of having making you guys come back in 2. But like I said, this one was posted right after that one. So, I mean, they were both posted on the same day, so you guys didn't have to wait too long. And please give this video a thumbs up. Give this podcast a thumbs up, and hopefully we can get on Spotify and Apple iTunes soon. I know that we're going to try our best, but for now we're just going to stick with YouTube, and just let us know how you guys liked it, or maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you'll be like, you guys are awful, go away, blah. I hope not. And follow us on social media, and I'll post all that down below so you guys can click there and see that. Also, go listen to our trailer because it's going to have a lot of information that you need to know. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.